As Frank said, last year, from September the 25th until the last part of October, I was part of a documentary that went to go see the issues of illegal immigration, and specifically to see the border. The documentary was actually funded by Al Jazeera America. Now, when I say that, people are like, in fact, Don is right now passing out a paper that has a statement about why I would do this documentary with Al Jazeera. And since the completion of that, and since it has started airing, I have been called a traitor and that I should burn in hell. But it was kind of interesting how this happened. It came through one of the other state chairmen who got this request of saying, and the request was out there, we are looking for people with a strong opinion about illegal immigration. And let me say that I have a lot of opinions, not all of them strong, but the ones that I do consider strong, which I did consider illegal immigration a strong opinion, was based upon research, and I felt that I had a solid foundation upon which to stand to have this opinion about illegal immigration. But when I had this opportunity, I never have seen the fence that has been erected. I've not seen a lot of these things. And so when the opportunity presented itself, I jumped on the bandwagon to see these topics, to see these issues for myself. And I will tell you that some of the things that I've seen, I had no clue, even though I felt I was pretty well educated about the issue. Since the documentary was completed in October of last year, it has since started airing. It is called Borderland. It is a 4-part documentary. The 4 weeks that basically I was out there, each of those weeks have been narrowed down into 1 hour, and this is the first promo that came out.
Every day, someone leaves their home searching for a better life.
2 hours in, come upon a body.
Now, in a breakthrough television event, Al Jazeera America takes you beyond the debate. Experience firsthand the tragic journey of these migrants.
A lot of people don't have a clue what goes on when you live near the border.
6 strangers with different points of view.
I don't believe in borders.
Our government is allowing an invasion.
Get to experience illegal immigration up close and personal.
It's very overwhelming to see this many people that have perished.
A lot of families that don't know where their babies went.
I want to make sure that her life is remembered.
What happens when lost lives are relived?
The only way to find out is to see it yourselves.
On Borderland, only on Al Jazeera America.
You guys want to come to the United States?
This documentary, the way they had designed it, and one of the reasons why I'm actually proud to have been a part of this particular documentary, is that most people say that, you know, there's an agenda out there. Well, I will tell you that from my perspective and my opinion on this, that the agenda is to expose the illegal immigration. And some folks will say there's no such thing as illegal immigration. We'll talk about that later on. But it is a term that is used quite frequently. And what they did was they selected 6 cast members that have 6 varying degrees of opinion on this issue. From, and you heard up there, from, you know, close the border down to no borders at all. And everything in between. 6 cast members from 6 different demographics, from 6 different geographies, geographical locations across the U.S. And they brought us together and to start taking a look at this. The first day was basically was at Tucson, Arizona. For those of you who may be familiar with the immigration issue, basically they look at Tucson, Arizona as the ground zero of this whole issue because of the tremendous deaths that are out in the desert. The second day that we were there was at a morgue. And over the years, there's an average of 1 migrant death in the desert every day. And so over the period from it's either 96 or 99 to 2011, I believe, there's like well over 2,000 deaths that occur in what they call the Tucson sector. And it's in the, from the Pima County Morgue. The chief medical examiner is Greg Hess. And this morgue can store, the primary morgue can store about 300 bodies. And then they have additional storage outside where they can store additional 200 bodies. At least, and we went into this morgue to take a look, and the first thing that, well, aside from the smell and that sort of stuff, the first thing that you start noticing is as you look at the tags on each of these bodies, at least 80%, maybe 90% of all the bodies that are in that morgue are either a John or a Jane Doe. Somebody that's crossed the border and there was no ID with them. They've tried everything that they can do to try to identify the body, to unite the body with their loved ones. And so that was the very, actually, first part of this journey. During this journey, I shot over 4,000 pictures, of which I'm just going to show you about 100. So this 100 is going to be try to encapsulate it all. The third day, we were introduced to a group called No More Deaths. And the guy right here, his name is John, who has gone down and tried to assist some El Salvadorans and try to get them. This is actually a church, an Episcopal church, that has been designated as a sanctuary for these migrants that are coming across. And let me say, one of the interesting things that I started developing early on as I started hearing the definition is they're calling them migrants. They're not calling them immigrants and that sort of thing. And some of these terms are going to get convoluted, but I hopefully will clarify that by the end of this presentation. This lady right here, well, let me go back. This lady right here, she was talking about the medical issues where they try to actually help these migrants. And let me tell you, when we went out to the desert and we went out there along the trails, along these washes, that I had a couple of pair of really good hiking shoes. The first pair of hiking shoes got destroyed in the first wash because the rocks were sharp and it cut up the bottoms of the shoe and just literally destroyed it. These migrants are coming across the border with sometimes as little as flip-flops. When those get destroyed, they start wrapping rags around their feet and they become quite bloody and they start developing all kinds of health problems. This lady started presenting some of the information. And this is some of the really important thing. I wish the slide was more clear, and I'm trying to get the original slide. I just took a picture of it. But this is a slide of visa applications from Mexico. Now, I know you can't probably read the dates very well, but the first one is unmarried children of citizens from Mexico. And the date of their visa application, they're still working on 1993. Spouses and children of permanent residents, 2011, that's one of the closest. The next one is 93, and 96. Siblings of adult citizens, married children of adult citizens. So when we make the comment, look, why don't you just go back home and come back the legal way? All right? Well, chances are they're not coming back the legal way. The system is screwed up from top to bottom. And that's some of the stuff that we need to understand when we start talking about it. If we want to really start talking about, hey, come back legally. Well, guess what? The first thing we have to do is take care of this part so that there could be a legitimate legal option for these people to come through. This No More Deaths, we went out into the desert, and as you can kind of see some of the mountain terrain, some of the desert terrain there, they set out water. And what we did was we had 1 gallon jugs, and most of them carried 1. I carried 4. And they take these water jugs and put them out there where some of the known trails are of these migrants coming through. And people have, tried to sue them and say you're enabling. And I've got a part of me that, I believe in the humanity part of it to save lives. but it's also an aspect of enabling them to continue their journey. So I'm pretty torn about the specific job, but they're looking at it as these are human beings worthy of saving their lives. This is where we camped out. And this right here, this is Alex. He was kind of my partner that they partnered me up with. He is the liberal artist skater boy from New York. And and believe me, there was a couple of times we didn't get along so well. I'll just say that. And of course, you know, no desert scene would be complete without the rattlesnake. Now, what's interesting about this particular shot, this is a shrine that is set up, and it's dug into the side of this hill so that it can be somewhat protected from the ravages of the weather. This is the ravine in the area where my shoes were just absolutely tore up, and you can see the bottles of water right down there. This is one of the leaders of that organization called No More Death, and this is the producer and the cameraman that was on this particular aspect of it. But what's important to note is there are pictures in here, there are candles that have been lit, and all of that. Now, what you might say, well, you know, what shrine isn't? But here's the deal. They come across the border with these items specifically for this shrine. In other words, they know about this shrine long before they ever get there. And it's an important aspect of this is that almost every aspect of the trip from the migrant that may be coming up from El Salvador, Guatemala, the southern part of the Mexico, they pretty much know what's ahead of them because the word has gotten there. In fact, they know about the fact that they may not make it through the desert, that they may die through the desert. And we'll talk about some more of the dangers along the way. But and this is going to go to what is driving this issue. And I thought this was pretty interesting. Travel caution, smuggling, and illegal immigration may be encountered in this area. So this was where part of the migrant trail comes through. And what's really funny about this particular picture, as you can see, this is a night scene with the lights. I mean, it's like you've seen the casinos and some of these others that just have all these bright lights. It's hard to miss it, right? This is out there in the middle of the desert where there's no other light around. And it's like, oh, that's the only place I can go to cross. You know, it's like a big advertisement. You know, they can avoid it because migrants primarily travel at night with their coyotes or they call them other things, but their coyotes will take them in. I mean, it's an obvious thing that they can avoid along the way. This right here, I wish I could have got a little bit closer view. That is it's kind of in the shape of a plane, but it's tethered to the ground. It's a blimp that goes up, and it is there to detect air traffic coming across the border. In the particular area, and you can see it next here, there's a lot of low flat land. And originally they had aircraft that, you know, like Cessnas and that, coming across the border, dropping drugs and going back. And at this particular area, we're at a monument up here on the side of the hill where we met with Sheriff Daniels from Cochise County. And he indicates that 70% of all migrant traffic across the border is drugs. And in addition to that, they have the drug cartels that are no longer using the Cessnas, but the ultralights. And they're flying very low. And so this little blimp here isn't able to catch a lot of those ultralights that are coming across, dropping the drugs, and then flying back across the border before they can catch them. The primary objective of the sheriff, he says, my primary job isn't immigration, it's the illegal activity, the drugs that I have to deal with. And he says what we try to do is to see these and to make it to the drug drop before the other people are picking it up. This is the monument and just another view of the area. And this is the fence that we saw. This is the area in Cochise County. Now, what's interesting about this is, let me tell you, this fence is each of the poles are about a 6-inch square pole that is made out of at least 1/4-inch steel. It is very solid steel. What these things are right here is where they've taken chop saws and cut through the fence so that they could take their four-wheelers and drop the drugs through there and then drive back. And so these are the repair work of the fence. And this one deserves its own shot, because I need you to know that here's this great big fence that's about 20 feet tall and stretches a lot of our border. But do you notice anything right here? It ends. And tell me which one of you couldn't just kind of walk around this area. It's not like there's a whole lot of brush. I was just absolutely blown away. And something else that I have discovered along the way is, and this is kind of a question for any of you strategists or military people. If you were going to protect the border and you were going to deploy your resources, your troops, your border patrol, where would you place them? On the hill? Well, yeah. And you know what? If you place somebody up right about there, you see this path right here? This path exists the entire length of this border fence for hundreds of miles. It's a 20 to 30 foot flat space with nothing on it that you can see. The fence is pretty well, as you can see, a straight line. Somebody sitting on the top of this hill could look straight down this line, and it would make sense that you would place somebody to watch. In fact, as you can see, the other side isn't all that rough and terrain. You can see people coming. But guess where they have the Border Patrol positioned?
60 miles away.
Not quite 60, but an average of about 5 miles away from the border, where the migrant that has either climbed over, gone around, or whatever, has already gone into the trenches and covered by the brush and other terrain features so that they are not seen. And then they have these cameras that are positioned about 3 or 4 miles. Now, I don't doubt that they can see some of the traffic that's coming. But I am telling you, the way the Border Patrol and the way these assets are being utilized, they're not protecting the border. It is an appeasement. It is the illusion of protecting the border. Yeah, they do catch some of the migrants along the way. But I'm telling you, if they actually, my opinion is this. If our government wanted to shut down the border, they could do so tomorrow without having to bring our troops back. They could do it tomorrow. All they have to do is reposition their resources and their assets to the border. So this goes to show you the culpability of our government in what they're doing. Sheriff Daniels told me, he says, I have put out the invite to every single congressman and senator there to come and ride with me and see the real border. And to date, not one single politician has come down there to ride with him to see the border. Not one. And he named some of the specific ones, Rubio and some of the others. Come, see the border. But you get these guys that go down there. Yeah, I've seen the border. Yeah, they've done some kind of a little chopper flyover maybe and some little press event. They've not seen the border. They don't know what's going on. 70% of the traffic that's coming across from Mexico has drugs. 70%. And following the trip to the sheriff, we went to this rancher whose ranch is, I'm not sure if it's 30,000 square miles of ranch that he has, which is butts up against the New Mexico state line as well as the border. We rode out to a place called Rattlesnake Hill, and from the hill out there, you can kind of see it in the distance, is the border right along through there. And this guy's name is Warner Glenn. It was the Warner Glenn Ranch. We got to ride the mules out there to the hill, and he explained what happens there in his ranch about the traffic that comes through. I don't know how many head of cattle he has. He's got a significant amount of cattle on his ranch. In fact, they're so far out that they have to sometimes drive out to the range somewhere to find them. And they have fences to keep them in certain areas. Well, part of the problem is these migrants coming through cut the fences so that they can keep on trucking through. So they destroy the land. They've found dead cattle. Hopefully it's for the meat. Rather than just simply kill them because they're invading some other territory that the U.S. thinks they shouldn't be. But that's another story. He has, which you can't hardly see on his right-hand side, he has a 38. And that's pretty much all he has for protection. And he has told the story about migrants that he has stopped that have had 40 to 60-pound bales of pot on their back. And he says, I'm calling the Border Patrol. And I'm somewhat appalled that he hasn't been shot yet because he's infringing on the drug cartel's business here. But he says he feels safe enough. But he confirms the 70%. And this is his wife and daughter who go out there and range the cattle. This is another one of the ranchers. This is John Glenn, myself, and one of the other cast members who's from Washington and is a spud and asparagus farmer. And so we had the opportunity to talk with them. From that point, we go back to the morgue where they give us the mission. And this is where we learned that the 6 participants get divided into 2 teams. And so team 1 went to I can never say that, Tapachula, Mexico, to see Claudette, who died in the desert. Team 2 went to El Porvenir, Guatemala. And there was a kid, 14 years old, named Omar that died in the desert. And then I was a part of Team 3, and we went to El Salvador to talk to Myra's family down there. And I'm going to kind of start running through these pictures fairly quickly because time is moving on here. This was a family from El Salvador known as the Molinas. And he's here as a legal migrant on a work visa, and he was telling us some of his story about what was going on, and that's his family, and of course the guy that I went down there with. This is Myra's mother that we talked to. She doesn't speak much English, and so we had an interpreter here. This young man interpreted for us, and the story of Myra is that she was left behind in El Salvador while the rest of her family immigrated to the United States. She is a legal citizen, but she stayed there because of her grandmother being ill. Well, 10 years later, her grandmother passes away, and now she's trying to make it to the U.S. Well, she can't do it because of those numbers you saw. And so she decides she wants to be reunited with her family. So she takes she gets a coyote that takes her up into the desert, and she actually makes it to Texas, where she was caught and jailed. The family paid her bail of $4,000 whatever dollars. She makes it to Iowa, but doesn't have the money to go back to Texas. So now she's been put into the illegal status. They do a raid, they find her and deport her back down to El Salvador. She says, I still want to be with my family. And there's another guy that brings her up. And let's see. And so now we are now going, and that all took place in Iowa. We're now going to El Salvador.
There's no such thing as illegal immigration.
Al Jazeera America presents a breakthrough television event, Borderland. A first-hand view at the crisis on the border.
How can I not be affected by it?
Strangers with different points of view take a closer look at the ongoing conflict. Alex, a liberal artist from New York, and Randy, a conservative vet from Illinois.
Are you telling me it's okay to just let them all run into the United States?
You don't have a right to make judgments about it.
They retrace the steps of Myra, a woman desperately trying to reunite with her family.
To discover and one of their children perish in the process. I don't know how to deal with that.
Will they come together in the face of tragedy?
Why her? It's insane.
Experience illegal immigration, up close and personal.
The only way to find out is to see it yourselves.
On Borderland premieres Sunday, April 13th, only on Al Jazeera America.
This is the real deal, man.
So we get down into El Salvador, San Salvador, El Salvador, which is the capital of El Salvador. This is just a huge Catholic cathedral, and this is just kind of show you the traffic and the people that are out there. But the very next day, that day, just around the corner is this scene. And this scene is of this guy who was shot crossing over to go into this Catholic cathedral. And it was most likely gang-related. And I've recently found out that in San Salvador, there's at least 10 to 15 deaths every day, which contributes to the overall aspect of this. It was almost like a circus. These people were just passing by, a lot of laughter and all this stuff. People selling ice cream. He was just about ready to get off his bike and start selling his wares to these people. So it almost, everybody's death there becomes kind of like an opportunity to start selling your wares. And people just walk by. It was a phenomenal sight to me. It just shocked me to see the lack of concern about what was going on. They just viewed it almost as just another circus trick or something. This is inside the cathedral. Now, to give you a little bit more of an idea, take a look. Obviously, you get the golden arches, right? But guess what's out there in front of the golden arches? The golden arches that El Salvador is on the U.S. dollar. McDonald's is about the same price down there for their food, maybe just a touch higher than it is here. And so, to feed a family of 4, what would it be? Somewhere around maybe $25 or so. Well, and you can see some more of the armed guards. They're all over the place. Either it's shotguns or heavily automatic weapons down there. And every place, another armed guard. I call it a fortress country, because if you're in a home or a business, you've probably got a concrete wall topped by razor wire and all kinds of electronic devices here to protect your home. This is the kind of environment, and it's all across the country in El Salvador. And this is a symbol of the MS-13, which is one of the gangs from LA that is heavily engaged down there. And there's also the gang from New York, 18th Street gang. And part of the reason why they are down there was an effort at one point in time where they started heavily deporting a lot of these gang members. And well, of course, they took the gang with them. And so it is a very dangerous country. This is Elmer. That is Myra's brother. And we rode around in his taxi cab. And he makes about $200 a month to support his family. Okay, imagine $200 a month, and one meal at McDonald's is $25, a quarter of your monthly wages. You can see why there's armed guards there. And this is Noe, who actually went with Myra the second time, escorted her. Myra actually died in his arms just a day or so after having crossed the border. Another symbol of MS-13. This is the 18th Street gang, and these are gang members where actually this particular scene right here is the mayor of Ulangapo is trying to provide a means for them to support themselves. He's actually making dough for bread, and so he's actually trying to resolve this. Now, what's real interesting is the United States is deporting very heavily. And this is a picture of one of the deportees, and they have all of their shoelaces undone for some reason. Somewhere between 50 to 150 migrants every day are deported to El Salvador. And that's just one of the countries where there's a lot of deportation. They take care of their medical needs. They give them shots and whatever else they need, food, and some money to get back to their family. This here now, we've moved from El Salvador. We've come up to, actually the title of the slide's wrong, but this is a area called Arriaga where the migrants all start to congregate. And I thought this picture was pretty phenomenal because here's this police and all of these illegal immigrants that are hanging around there. And this train, there we go, the right title. This train is known as La Bestia, and by the migrants. And what's interesting about this particular picture right here, this is first class seating. The coyotes, they have to pay extra, and the reason why that's absolutely first-class seating is because these migrants will climb on top of this train, as we'll see. In fact, they're looking at the train. They finally made it on top. This is kind of a picture of us, and this is actually, you can't see it very well, but they actually had a rope to tie us in. I didn't use it. They were mad about that. But anyway, but these are migrants that are getting on top of this train. This is a cargo train. And you can see all the migrants here. This picture is a little bit dark, but if you could see it, you'd see the just migrants all the way down this train. Anywhere from 300 to 1,000 migrants every day board this train headed to the southern border of the United States. And this is just one of the trails to the southern border of the United States. I just need to give you an idea of what it is. And when they come, when they leave, and most of those are from Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, coming up there to escape their areas, this is all they're coming with. They might have a blanket roll and a backpack. That's all of their worldly belongings. And so a lot of times, just by the necessity, this train ends in a city called, I do want to hit this picture. We interviewed, hopefully I didn't go too far, this girl and her daughter. Her name was Brenda. I don't remember what her daughter's name is. We interviewed her. Chances are she never made it. And this was back in October. Chances are she never made it to the border. And when we interviewed her, why would you go? We know that there are bandits. There was a person that was thrown off this train and held down on the tracks and cut in half because they didn't pay the fee to one of the bandits there. There's heavy human trafficking and rape and prostitution. This mother and daughter was probably taken off this train and probably put into prostitution. I doubt very seriously she made it. But we told her there's dangers. Not only do you face that on this train and in the next city called Culiacan, but there you face death in the desert. Why would you take this beautiful little girl and go through this desert and all of this? And her statement was, God will protect. God will protect. The faith of these people is pretty phenomenal. And I just didn't know how to say, God's probably not going to protect you on this. You need to use some intelligence and go back home. But they're leaving some as I'm trying to illustrate, they are leaving some horrible conditions. And this is a compound set up by the Catholic Church where they get off one of the stops along the way and they provide a place for them. This is a sleeping barracks and meal along the way. And what I found out at this compound is that Mexico, the government of Mexico, is looking to pass legislation to provide travel visas for all of the illegal aliens crossing their southern border so that it can get them through Mexico. Because Mexico's having an illegal immigration problem themselves. And there's a lot of people that don't want them to stick around, so they'd like to just give them a travel visa and get them on through. And this particular scene, I don't know if you know what that is. Cannabis, pot. We were on a pot plantation, and we were with the Mexican military, and so we were there picking out the pot and then burning it. All the black stuff right there is the irrigation hoses. The guy who does the farm with the potatoes and asparagus says this is a very technical operation. They had great irrigation for their crop. And one of the things I got to say is because one of the things that I found out, most Americans have no clue what NAFTA is. I've talked to them. Do you know what NAFTA is? And they have no clue. I'm telling you, almost all the peasants that we met everywhere knows exactly what NAFTA is. My view of NAFTA prior to going down this country is that NAFTA is destroying the U.S. economy at the benefit of all these other countries. I found out that NAFTA has destroyed the economies of Mexico and Guatemala and El Salvador. And The peasants say it was NAFTA. Prior to NAFTA being passed, we could grow our crops and make money doing so. Well, since the killing of that economy, guess what the cash crop is now? Mary Jane. And this is what they call sensibilia. Anybody who knows, familiar with that. Some of the most potent part. And it was just a huge, huge, huge pile that they threw on. And then we rode down there and back with the Mexican military. Now, I asked people last night what they thought this is. Anybody want to take a guess of what this is? What place this is? I heard kind of a church.
Is it a mosque?
Is it a what?
Mosque?
No. The beginning, the MO kind of part was part of it.
Monastery. Mausoleum.
It is a mausoleum. There is this whole big cemetery that have these single plots, and this is the drug cartel cemetery. Each one of those places could be anywhere from $10,000 to probably $500,000 easily. It has 2 stories, air conditioning, Wi-Fi, so that they can come in and have breakfast with their ancestors, apparently. You can see the mall type of situation. It just blow your mind. And while we were there, some of the drug cartels were checking us out to see what we were doing in their cemetery. There was some, quite frankly, some dangerous situations that we were in. But that'll give you the idea of this, what's going on. And we're getting kind of close to the end right here. This is a Catholic church in Altair, which is basically the last stop along the migrant trail before crossing the border. And this here is another compound where the migrants who have made it this far can get rest, a shower, cleaned up, more food, and then prepare them for the border crossing. And we actually went along the trail. You can kind of see this. This here is obviously a water tank. There's several different kinds. This is one of the biggest things that get destroyed, because what happens here is there's a pipeline that goes to an open place where cattle can be watered, and the migrants would start to drink this water. Well, they found out that the water is not good for them, and they would die from drinking that water. So what they would do is they would cut into the pipeline here to get the fresh water. Well, what the ranchers got smart to do is they added a drinking fountain over there by the thing so they wouldn't destroy their water and lose everything. This was the last part of our trip, and this is the from 1999 to 2012, 2,269 deaths. And this will give you an idea. They're primarily here. Tucson, Arizona is right around up in this area. So they kind of skirt them around this path. This will give you an idea. I call it the Valley of Blood. And I want to end the presentation with this, if I can make it happen. I might not. Oh, I'm not even going to worry about it. It was an interview. This is the end of the pictures, but I want to talk to you real briefly that what we're facing, this is not an immigration problem. It's not an illegal immigration problem. What it is a refugee problem. These people know and understand they may not make it to the United States alive. They know the dangers along the train. They know the dangers of the desert. They know these problems, and yet they will leave family. In fact, Omar's mother left to make enough money so that she could support her family, and left her family with left Omar with grandparents and stuff, and then sent money to a coyote to bring Omar up to the United States. Well, the coyote and Omar both died in the middle of the desert. I can't imagine. And this happens so often. I can't imagine. In fact, I wouldn't. I don't care how dire it would be. I would never leave my family. But this is a very frequent thing that happens. Both fathers and mothers will leave their families because they are dying down there. The death. In fact, one of the 14-year-old kids that was on the train, why are you leaving? He was there by himself. Well, actually, he was there with his cousin, getting on the train. Why are you here? He says, well, where I live in El Salvador, I was given one of the gangs came to me. They were trying to recruit me and gave me a cell phone. Told me I am to call my mother and tell her to send money down here or they will start cutting my fingers off. So guess what he did? He called. But he says, look, I've got the choice of whether I have to join this gang, possibly lose other appendages as well, and die, or if I make the trip to the United States. In El Salvador, there's almost a guarantee I'm going to die very soon. At least there's a chance that I will live going to the United States. Along the trail, you hear everybody saying, American dream. I want the American dream. Well, the American dream is to make money. They're not coming to America to be Americans. They're coming to America because they're refugees, leaving dire and horrible conditions down in those countries. And let me tell you, the United States is culpable in this. In 1952, there was a situation where the Dulles brothers, that one was the Secretary of State, one was the head of the CIA. There was a presidential election down in Guatemala. There was a fruit company known as the United Fruit Company. Some of you are shaking your head and you know the story. Well, they were investors in the United Fruit. The president had become president because he promised the peasants that he would give them back their land. Well, we can't lose our money and we can't lose our investment. So guess what the Dulles brothers do? They create a coup and depose the president, create a civil war where 200,000 people died and 50,000 are still missing. Many of which they're starting to uncover in mass graves. This is the culpability of the United States. We have culpability. We're not solely responsible, don't get me wrong. NAFTA, for instance, has destroyed the economy of Mexico to where the cash crop of Mexico is drugs. And guess who's buying them? We created this situation. Certainly, we're not the only ones culpable. Mexico signed on to NAFTA. These other countries signed on to NAFTA. They didn't have to. Or at least we don't understand that they had to. Maybe they did. You know, maybe there was a threat of another coup. I don't know. Most of us here are here because we recognize our government is evil.
The state. Not the government, the state.
Well, the people in the government are pretty corrupt, and they're causing these problems. So what I want to leave you with is the fact that we have to recognize if we want to deal with the issue of immigration, we have to deal with the root cause. If we don't deal with the root cause, we're never going to solve this problem. The root cause is those economies are terrible. The root cause is that we have exported the gangs down there. It's a very violent, very ugly situation. If we could seal that border closed, and guess what? They'll start swimming around it. They'll find, you know, if it's a 30-foot fence, they'll find a 40-foot ladder. Okay? They're going to come because, and then in Illinois, you know, I know some other states are similar. In Illinois, we give them subsidized housing, we give them subsidized education, we give them free medical care, and we now give them a driver's license to get there. So we're saying, if you make it through the desert alive, they make it to Illinois, and woo, look what you get. So this is a multifaceted problem, and I believe that we of the Constitution Party, and what the major thing that I did prior to this, and I wanted to show the clip. I'm going to be very quick, Frank. The clip was recognizing the human factor. The one thing that changed for me was recognizing there are humans involved here. There's an idea that is some of the culpability of the United States. Now, I'm not saying tear down the wall and let them come. Don't get me wrong. I believe in the rule of law, and I believe in our borders. I believe in the United States and why we have it. But if we want to resolve this problem, we have to resolve the root causes. And I believe the Constitution Party can take a position that will, and I'm trying to remember the term, Bob, to separate us from all the other people. Because they want to take this aloof position. Just close the border and that'll do it, right? No, it won't. We've got this whole welfare system that we have to attack. We have the issue of their economies that we are part of the problem of. We need to help these people fix that economy. Part of that would be to eliminate NAFTA.
Amen. Yes. That's right.
And then to talk about, see, we don't have that problem with the Canadian border. They're not coming across. Why? Because their economy is close to ours. And there was good migration. And it was migration. They would migrate in and they would migrate out. Why? Because their economy was well enough that they could make a living back down in their own country and do those kind of things. There's a lot more. I'm telling you, I spent a month down there. I've only showed you a few of the pictures of the 4,000 that I've shot. If you want to write down my website, immigration.constitutionallycorrect.org. I have those pictures. I kept a journal that I have to wait till this documentary completes to end. Once that happens, I'll be putting my journal out there. But I think the Constitution Party can develop, we've got a good plank now, but I think we can develop it such that not only is here's our plank, but here are our solutions, recognizing the humanity of the situation that's involved that will basically set us apart from every other group out there and really deal with the root cause. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.